everyone. Today on the podcast, we have Sean Crandall, the founder of Crandall Fitness, and then also Peter Keller, the founder of Fringe Sport. Guys, thanks for coming. Before we get going, anything you guys want to say?
I want to say howdy. It's Halloween. Happy Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween, guys.
Yeah, Peter's.
We have the right color scheme.
Yeah, you guys are on the same color scheme.
Yeah, we're natural. Our whole company is made for Halloween, apparently.
Yeah. Do you know if you sell any more on Halloween or right before Black Friday?
Yesterday was a pretty big day, so maybe they're prepping for it.
Yeah, who knows? All right, well, let's dive into topic number one. So, what do you guys think about Nike releasing their own strength equipment?
Go ahead, Peter.
I have a really corporate answer for that one, but it's actually what I really believe. Kudos for Nike, man. They're a huge brand, and they're going to be bringing a lot of casuals into the market that wouldn't have otherwise been in the market. As far as, feeling worried about the competition or whatever, there are already a ton of big brands in the space, and we do all right against them. We know that Nike's product is not going to be the best product. It's just going to be a very good mass market product, I think, at best. And so I think it's awesome because it's going to bring more casuals to the space. Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, that's a good point because I went to their Instagram page and they already have like 1 million ads with athletes. Like, there's no way you can compete like money wise. Not even Rogue. If they decided they really wanted to go crazy, they'd just crush everybody probably. But I think they're just going to make the generic stuff, put a swoosh on it, and then charge you the Nike prices. But in my field, at least, like with my day job, there's a lot of pushback against Nike from a lot of guys because of the whole woke crap. So that's just going to be a thing that people are going to think about. And if you read the comments under, like, whenever you post the stuff about Nike, you see that down there. People are like, forget Nike. I'm not buying that junk because Colin Kaepernick. And then the first one they have on there is like Colin Kaepernick doing stuff, and people are like just already turned off by whatever, Especially in the law enforcement military field where it's a pretty tight-knit community of guys, and that's where I'm coming from mostly. And so you get a lot of those guys tend to stick together. We do a lot of business with that community because of my podcast with you and the one I did with Andy Stumpf and stuff. So you just get a lot of pushback, and everybody on that field tends to have a very similar train of thought when it comes to politics and companies and stuff they want to be associated with. So it's just kind of how it goes.
I am curious actually if they're making bumper plates from chipped up shoe midsoles, because I hear you laughing about that. That's pretty interesting to me. I think if they're actually doing that, that is, a really interesting and innovative thing to bring to the market. That said, we spend a lot of time worrying about the durometer of the rubber and all this other boring science stuff of the rubber to produce these ultra durable, ultra awesome bumper plates. And I'm not sure that chipped up shoe rubber is actually the best material to make a bumper plate out of. But if they're keeping stuff out of the landfill, kudos to them. But I am curious if it really is that, or if it just kind of looks like that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure they're, stopping carbon emissions by 0.009%. That doesn't matter at all by using those shoes, when they could just give those shoes to, people that need shoes instead of chopping them up and making crappy bumper plates.
Man, Sean, you're really going for it. I'm trying to remain a little bit polite here.
Whatever.
After
I did my other podcast, I already shot myself in the foot with the law enforcement thing. So pretty much, if you don't like me, you're not gonna like me anyway.
I think like Sean, you brought up a really good point. Like all of you guys have a lot of good points right here that I kind of want to like just sum up. So like number one, Sean, you said they have so much money and you guys don't know exactly what they are going to do. Are they just going to bring this entry level stuff, or are they going to like try and sponsor the CrossFit Games? Because they certainly probably could throw like tens of millions of dollars to do that and take over the CrossFit Games, make CrossFit like an offer they couldn't refuse. So are they going to do that? Or are they going to go just like entry level dick stuff? And then what else was I gonna react
Like Ethos.
to?
Poor Ethos is going to be out of Dick's Sporting Goods now. It really pushed those poor little guys out.
Well, doesn't like Dick's just like own Ethos? So
I don't know. Maybe. So maybe they're getting a better percentage by having Nike make everything and they just get to sell it.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah,
but anyway,
I don't know.
anyways, I also just think like in general, it's going to bring more people into the community, or at least give them some exposure to it, at least. And then I think like Sean's mentioned, like there's you like most companies are targeted on a specific niche, and like most of the home gym community right now, based off the comments, doesn't seem very interested in Nike equipment. So I don't think it like poses a huge threat to the current companies that are like on top or doing well already. So I don't. That's just kind of my initial thoughts and poking
Well,
back
the
after
general
your guys' comments.
yeah, the general consensus seems to be that they're just releasing a bunch of stuff that I'm not sure how much quality control they do. You know what I mean? Or they're just like, hey, send us a bunch of bars and some cool looking bumper plates, and we'll throw this shit out there, and we'll throw a swoosh on there and charge swoosh prices. You know?
Yeah. Well, is like Nike gonna add a Nike lat pull down to their racks? You know, like
Well, because you got to think like how far down the development chain is somebody like. Is there a guy at Nike that's like, I really like home gyms and is like doing all the testing and coming up with ideas? Or they're just like a bunch of older dudes at Nike like, hey, I think we can make some money and some weight shit. Like, yeah, ask one of our factories if they can throw some bars together and some bumpers, and we'll chop up some shoes.
yeah.
You know,
Well,
that don't do CrossFit or use bumpers or whatever. They're just like, yeah, we'll just do that, and I'm sure it'll be fine.
So one thing that you guys haven't mentioned just yet is some of the speculation that I'm seeing online is that this is tied in with their Nike studios, where they're opening up a bunch of different fitness studios. To be honest, I don't know a ton about that, but if it is, linked in with that may be why they're doing it. Hey, we want Nike branded barbells for our studios anyways. If people see them at the studios, they're probably going to want one for their house. Because Sean, just as much as you mentioned that there are a bunch of people who are super turned off by the wokeness of Nike, there are also a bunch of people who are like hype beasts or whatever and just love anything that's got a swoosh on it. And I totally think there are people who are turned off by the, let's say the wokeness of Nike, but then there are also people who are just super, I don't want to say basic, but are just very into like that scene. And so, Nike could be playing a game that we don't even, know about.
Yeah, well, I mean, imagine you're just a guy that goes to the 24-hour fitness. He doesn't care about like the knurling on the barbell or the tensile strength or whatever. He's like, I go in there and I put 45s on there, and I'm assuming it's 135, and I just lift it, and I don't really give a shit. I'm not weighing it, So you get those kind of people too that are just like, I thought that those standard plates I've been using my whole life were exactly like they were supposed to be. I didn't realize they could weigh 48 pounds or 40 pounds or 39 pounds. Like, damn it. That's why when you go to one YMCA and another YMCA, like, oh, this weight feels different. It's not 225 everywhere, because it's actually not. So, anyway, cool. I'm just saying, I'm agreeing with Peter. Like, you get those general people that are just like, don't really care about the specifics. They're just like, hey, that's a cool looking bar. It's got a swoosh on. It's all black. Cool. I'll buy that in my house.
No.
Matches my gear.
I agree. But there's also plenty of like 18, 19, 20-year-olds who like haven't heard of Rogue, for example, but they've heard of Nike. So if they're in a Dick's, they might just grab Nike, or just like get them thinking about starting a home gym, so.
Yeah. And I mean, to follow on to that, the stuff that I'm seeing Nike come out with, it's at least not the extremely basic low end stuff. Because if you go to Dick's Sporting Goods and you don't know anything, you might end up with one of those, 1-inch standard barbells with some, plastic encased cement plates and just a really shitty bench. And I mean, back in the day, decades ago, when I started lifting, that's what I got. I think I got it from Sears, which I'm like really dating myself here. And, it sucked, but it at least started something for me. That said, there's so many better options these days. So if you have somebody going into Dick's and they could either get that really crappy cement set or they could get a Nike set, they're better off getting the Nike set. And then from there, maybe they find out about, better and other options.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. And just the commercials. I'm sure they're going to come out with commercials where there's people working out at home. And that'll just hit so many people like, oh, I could have a home gym. Like, oh, shit. And they just like, oh, home gym's near me. And then if you're in, Austin or whatever, you're hitting up Peter, you know what I mean? If you're around us, like we're popping up because you have a retail location, you're just going to find people that you would never find because they're like, oh, that's a cool commercial. I'll just look at it online.
Yeah. Yeah. You see LeBron James with a Nike barbell or something like that. Yeah. All right. Let's go. Let's go to the next. Okay, you don't look like LeBron either.
Yes.
All right.
So LeBron.
Let's do next topic.
Maybe LeBron James is crying over his barbell. It's too heavy. Hurts him.
Okay. I don't think so. All right. So USA versus Chinese manufacturing. I think.
Yes.
Very heavily debated topic. Would love to hear your opinions, and I think a lot of the talk is that it's these made in America companies versus import companies, and they're just enemies. So would love to hear your guys' perspective.
We're frenemies.
Yeah. Okay. Expand, please.
I'm sure Peter would agree. It depends on where you manufacture it and what specs you give them that you want to manufacture to. Because you can manufacture like another brand that looks like a Spartan, or you can manufacture like we do and get better steel, higher tensile strength stuff, thicker steel, make it commercial grade like we do, and choose quality over saving $4 or $10 or whatever it is on whatever piece of equipment you're making, and make it just as good. Or you can go as cheap as you want. That's the thing about getting it there, is that you have the freedom to pick however good a quality or however crappy quality you want. Depends on how cheap you want to sell it. You know what I mean? You could do Amazon stuff or you can do high-end stuff. And it's all based on the company and who they want to go with, and have they tested stuff, and do they know what the hell they're talking about when they order it? You know what I mean? Stuff like that. That's what I'm thinking. What do you think there, Peter?
I have a lot of thoughts here, a lot of them. Okay, so I probably think about this topic and a few other topics that are related to this way too much. So first of all, I think that the general framing of China is eating our lunch, Americans' lunch, in terms of manufacturing, I think that's a completely wrong framing. If you look at US manufacturing output, it is higher than it has ever been, higher than it's ever been. And the reason for that is the Chinese are not taking away American manufacturing jobs. The robots are taking away American manufacturing jobs. And that's part of the reason that US manufacturing is at higher levels than it's ever been in terms of output, but actually employment in the manufacturing sector has gone way, way, way down. So if you want to point to an enemy that's taking away US jobs, point to a robot. That's what it is. It's not a Chinese person. The other thing is, a lot of these manufacturing jobs that are going to China or are going to other areas are not great manufacturing jobs. They're not jobs that are providing a middle-class living to somebody with a high school diploma or something like that. They're really not the best manufacturing jobs. Now, to what Sean had mentioned in terms of going to China versus going to the US, you can manufacture great or terrible products anywhere. You can manufacture terrible crap here in the US, and you can manufacture amazing stuff in China. It depends on what you're trying to do and what you're designing for. So for example, every now and then we have customer that comes to us, is like, oh my God, you make in China. I hate China. I never do anything with China. And I'm always like, bro, pull your phone out of your pocket. They never have an American-made phone in their pocket because nobody has an American-made phone these days. It's impossible. Or TV, or computer, or whatever. Maybe your computer's made in Malaysia or Thailand, but it's definitely not made here in the U.S. So to double down on what Sean had mentioned, it really comes down to what are you designing for, what are you buying for, and what are you putting into that product. So I remember a decade ago or 15 years ago, something like that, Apple started to say, designed in California, made in China or whatever. There's something to that. The design is done here in the US. It's done by people who are highly motivated to create awesome products. And then manufacturing is done where it makes the most sense for the customer. Same thing with Fringe Sport and same thing with Crandall Fitness. The design is done where it makes the most sense for the customer, which is to say in the USA, and then the manufacturing. So by the way, I manufacture in the US, I manufacture in China, I manufacture in Taiwan, manufacture in a few other areas. But what drives that choice of where to manufacture is where is it going to be the best for the customer, not where is it going to be the best for my supplier. So we are customer focused and customer driven in where we make those products. Now, next, I want to make a quick argument that doesn't have to do with Fringe Sport nor Crandall Fitness. So, Sean, to put a quick question to you, is the Rogue Monster squat rack a bad rack?
No.
Is the Rep PR 5000 a bad rack?
No.
Okay. The Rogue Monster is manufactured in the USA. The Rep PR 5000 is manufactured in China. And the reason that I mentioned those two companies is because they're competitors with us. So we're probably not incentivized to be overly kind to them or whatnot. But the reality is you can buy a very similar Rogue Monster squat rack on Rogue's site for about $1,500 plus a few $100s of shipping on top of that. And then you can buy a similar PR 5000 on Rep's site for about $1,100 with free shipping. And so if Rep can deliver a similar quality rack, maybe even better in a few different ways, then Rogue can, and Rep's manufacturing in China and delivering it to the end user for $1,100 delivered to their dock or their door. And then Rogue is doing the same thing, made in the USA for $1,500, maybe $200 shipping, so $1,700. You've got $600 in between there, which by the way is about 50% the cost of the Rep rack. $600 could buy you a barbell, could buy you some bumper plates, could buy you some collars. I mean, you could almost get a full gym just for the difference in cost there. So great, fantastic that Rogue is able to manufacture in the USA, but you could get a whole gym for just the cost of a squat rack if you're outsourcing that manufacturing. And that's just a decision that a customer has to make.
Yeah, and it's not like they're dog shit. It's like if you're getting it and you're checking the thickness of the steel and the quality of the steel and you're like apples to apples, really it's just a personal preference at that point. If you're like, oh, I'm just not going to buy Chinese, or I'm fine with it because it's going to be great quality. You know what I mean? If it was coming out crap, then that'd be a different story. But like anything else, like your phone, it's the same people who are like yelling at you. Like I've had people ask us on our Instagram account, like, well, most of your stuff's made in China, because we do some U.S. manufacturing, but most of your stuff's made in China. And I'm like, the phone you're messaging me on is made in China. You know, like in the same comment, you're like, you're on TikTok, it's a Chinese app. Like you sign the waiver, they can track everything. Like, I don't understand what you're getting at. All the parts for your car.
I think that that's even a better argument, because if you're on TikTok, you know, phone, you know, whatever it is, what it is, you basically can't buy a US manufactured phone, but you can decide to not be on TikTok. And I'm just guessing that most of the people don't decide to not be on TikTok. If they get that short little dopamine hit, then they're going to be on there. So, I mean, it's a little bit of hypocrisy there, but you know, whatever.
Well, that's nobody, nobody cares. Like the people that complain about that stuff are wearing Nike shoes that are made in China or Taiwan, like, or they're wearing Under Armour, it's made in Afghanistan. Like, come on, like, it's so dumb. It's just so dumb. But they're like, nope, this is the hill I'm dying on, is my gym must be made in the United States. This one hill, not my car, or the material for my house, my TV, my DVD player, my phone, my clothes, anything else in my entire house. But gosh dang it, that rack is going to be made, and it has to be and I'm going to pay twice as much for it. God damn it.
Well, like, even if, let's just say the law was that all racks had to be made in the USA, that would make no rack special. That would make Rogue's Rack no more special to certain buyers than buying from another brand. Then, if that makes sense. I mean, it's like people are making these purchases. You buy a certain product because because you identify with it. It stands for something. So like, I'd also be curious to hear like what you would like what if like you could only buy American, like what do you think that would do to the market? Like to me it sounds like it would be much smaller and maybe less beneficial for all.
Innovation would go way down.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
If it could only be in the U.S., the very first thing that would happen is innovation would dive into the dirt, and then costs would go way up. And by the way, as far as innovation goes, we are living in the golden age of barbells. And honestly, before the pandemic, I thought we were living in the golden age of barbells. And then now post-pandemic, like I'm shocked by all the small creators that are popping up and putting out super innovative takes on stuff that's been around forever. And if we couldn't access the, relatively inexpensive and fast manufacturing in China, that innovation would just be choked in the cradle. It would just go into the dirt. And like I said, before, costs would just go skyrocket. Everything be twice as expensive at least.
Yeah. Just to piggyback your point, I use some U.S. manufacturers, and I swear to God, if I deviate from whatever freaking blueprint we've used before, you'd think I just killed like their dog. It was like, oh God, I don't know. I don't know if the engineer's going to want to do that. I'm like, well, that's how I want it. And they're like, well, so every time you see me come out with a new product, like our lap pull down low row, we were selling a USA made one for a long time. And they're like, now we're not changing it. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'll just stop buying, $80,000 or $100,000 in lap pull downs from you for a year. And I'll start making my own, designing my own, making my own. Like the cables we use higher end cables, we use higher end pulleys, we use larger pulleys, and all that is for very specific reasons. And now we don't buy any of those from them anymore because they're like, yeah, we're not making a change. And then I call one of my Chinese manufacturers. I'm like, I want this, and this. Like, cool. What color? How many? What do you want? I'm like, I need you to change this by 1 millimeter. I need this cable exactly this big. I need this pulley this big for this reason with these bushings because of this. So like, yeah, okay. We'll send you a new design. Give me like 3 days. 3 days later, I get it. I'll check. Cool. I want that. Get them in. Then if there's something you want to change, okay, we tweak this. Round 2, done. No problems. No questions asked. No complaining. And I swear to God, I do it with the USA guys. It's like, you think you're just pulling their teeth out, getting them to change something. Like, oh, I mean, if you don't want me to buy stuff from you, then just keep complaining and we won't buy stuff from you. And now and the more products I come out with, every time we come out with something new, that means I'm buying something less from a U.S. manufacturer, especially when it comes to machines, leg presses, functional trainers. Like the more I come out with, it's our branding or whatever you see on our site. That's something I didn't buy from somebody because they didn't want to change the way they've been doing it for 30 years or whatever. So I think that's dumb, but whatever. That's been my experience.
Well, and related to that, if you look at a lot of the small makers that are making really interesting things in our space, they're usually making them themselves. Mm-hmm. And so they're making them in the USA, but they're making them in their, garage machine shop or something like that because of precisely the problems that Sean is mentioning right there. It's very hard to get anybody who's got a decent sized fab shop, machine shop, something like that, to be flexible, especially with a smaller brand, but even with a larger brand with larger quantities, it's just hard to get that flexibility and speed. And so that's why you see a lot of these innovative people like that Mutant Metals guy. I mean, he's doing it out of his garage. And that's because I would just guess if he were to go to a shop with his designs, they would have the same problems that Sean is mentioning, especially if you want to, do a custom powder coat or something like that. They're not really interested in that. Whereas you can do that overseas and you do it faster.
Without complaining.
Do you guys have much insight into like, I'm guessing Peter might, just like how robotics have improved over the last like decade or something like that. I'm not really familiar with the topic, but I'd be curious to hear like, are robotics truly advancing and making it that much easier and the equipment better?
So sorry,
Or,
Peter.
go ahead.
Steal for like 2 minutes, and I'm sure Peter knows way more than I do. But for example, let's say this is what I always tell people when they ask me. All of our racks and benches and all those welds, like on most of our big pieces, are all done with a machine, like a robot, right? We've seen them in person. They have very precise welds. They have a machine. They're coming down. They're welding it perfect. Now, I'm not shitting on Rogue or anything, but like you make it here and you're paying a guy $60 an hour, to weld. What happens if he gets drunk because the Cowboys lost, or he's like having a shitty day because he's getting divorced, and maybe like a bunch of his welds that day aren't super awesome. Like there's a human factor. It's just like my job or anybody else's job. Maybe you go to work and you're like, nah, today sucks, and you're in a shitty mood and you just don't do it. You're not as productive. You're not as good as you were. Things irritate you more, whatever. You don't do as good. Well, the robot doesn't give a shit. So the robot's like doing perfect laser cuts and welds constantly. So you get a consistent, high quality thing if you want that every time. Versus sometimes when you use people, your welds, maybe, I'm not saying welds, laser cut, whatever they're doing, cutting, measuring, anything, might not be perfect every time. So I think like robots before they weren't taking up as much of the space. Like you said with like what the UAW now, they're freaking out about Ford, It's the same thing is like eventually they're seeing the future. Like as soon as they can figure out a robot that's going to come over and put the wheels on that I'm literally doing myself, then I'm effed,
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing Rogue's going to figure that out one of these days, if they haven't already.
Yeah. Well, we lost Peter. And one of their things too is like, and when they do, how much backlash are they going to get? Because like they're going to have a bunch of welders who are like, hey, what the hell? You just booted us. You know what I mean? Yeah. Who knows? I mean, who knows? But Peter's been in the business way longer than me, so he's probably been, who knows, been around, seen like the advancements in the actual robotics themselves. I'm just comparing robots versus like people or whatever. Peter, we're going to have to get you some Starlink, buddy. Oh, we lost him again. He's paused on your screen too, right? It's not my connection?
Yeah.
Okay, well. But does that make sense to you? Like it's like with any job, right? Like if you show up and you're in a shitty mood and you're just like, I'm just not feeling it. Maybe your work's not as good.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's like working out, right? You go into the gym and if you're like, oh fuck you, I'm gonna kick crap out of this workout today, And then some days you go in there and you're like, man, I'm just gonna do curls and some triceps and maybe walk a little bit on the treadmill. Right. Just to say I worked out today because it's easy, whatever.
Yeah, and they don't get tired either, right? And like I said, I just don't think they will. Like if Rogue could profit more, or anybody in the U.S. could profit more, like they're going to slowly but surely bring the robots on. And I know they already have some.
Oh shit! I can't even go to Taco Bell now and ask the lady to do my order. I went like a month ago just on a whim, and she's like, "You have to go use the kiosk." I'm like, "Can I just order the front here?" And she's like, "Oh no, we're not allowed to do that. You have to use the kiosk." And I go, "But you're here by the computer." And she goes, "If you need me to, I'll go help you use the kiosk." And I'm like, "Wait, what's the difference? Do you use the kiosk and me just?" I'm like, "Okay, let's go use the kiosk." Like you're still helping me do the kiosk, like. So it's the same thing. Like, oh, you want $15 an hour and welding, they're going to probably pay 60, 80. I think Rogue was like at 60 or $80 an hour. Last like ad I saw of theirs, they were hiring welders.
Yeah, not cheap.
So, oh, he's back.
Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what happened, but
that's all right.
So we're going to have to use some Starlink over there.
Sean, catch it rolling.
All right.
Okay, thoughts, Peter?
This is about robots. Yeah, so I heard you guys talking a little bit about Rogue and robots. I'm sure that Rogue has got a ton of welding robots in there because it just makes economic sense because you can buy a welding robot for, I have no idea, let's say $100,000 or $200,000, $300,000. And the payback on that has got to be, pretty swift as far as that goes. That said, just like Sean had mentioned, that's the way the world is going. Like everything is going more robotic. I just saw a video the other day of some like Boston Scientific or I think it's Boston Dynamic, excuse me, Boston
Yeah.
Dynamic robots that Amazon was testing out that could actually do like some picking in their warehouse, and they're just kind of like hopping along. And right now they're going slowly, but just like you mentioned, Sean, they never get drunk. They never, call out or whatever. They just work and go. And that's the way that the world is heading. One thing I will mention about that is there's this movement back in the early 1900s, late 1800s called the Luddites. And I'm sure you guys have heard the word, Luddite, but it came from a specific movement that was anti-technology. And what they thought was that the new technologies were going to put a ton of people out of work. And sure, the new technologies did put a ton of people out of work. So, for example, there used to be a job that was called lamplighter. So, in every city, whenever it gets dark, you had to have a human go from lamp to lamp with some fire, lighting each lamp. And when electric lights became a thing, the lamplighters were like, "Hey, we're not going to have a job anymore." And it's like, "Yeah, you're not going to have a job that sucks anymore." That's what
Yeah.
happens. So now with robots, that is something that's happening. But you can look back to even, the Japanese automotive industry, like spanking the hell out of the US automotive industry. And one of the ways that they did that is that the US was, I mean, you hear these famous stories out of GM where, if 100 cars were going to be built on an assembly line that day, they would need a parts bin with 150 parts to fit those 100 cars, because they'd have some sort of horrendous error rate of the parts. And so they'd be trying to, a human be trying to fit that part in the car. Oh, it doesn't fit. I'll throw it in the discard pile, et cetera, et cetera. And then the Japanese came along and they were like, look, if we're going to make 100 cars, we're going to have 100 parts because we're going to have a zero defect rate. And so this whole thing about this transition to robotics in manufacturing, it's just a continuation along that line. Now, the downside of that, especially for the USA, is that you have a lot of people in Ohio and Michigan and those different areas that they remember that grandpa used to work on the Ford assembly line, and grandpa had only a high school education, but grandma could stay at home, and grandpa with only his high school education working on the Ford factory line could afford a house, a lake house, and a Harley. And that's just not the case anymore. And so that, I'm sorry, but it is what it is that you need, more high skilled labor now that we've got this transition to robotics and transition to, other areas. And of course, AI, ChatGPT, generative AI, that's going to be creating a lot of that in some of the like knowledge focused industries as well. I know this is a little far afield from Squat Racks, but
No. I listen to a lot of business podcasts, and everyone's trying to predict how everything's going to react, and like really nobody knows. And then, like you said, though, like back in the day, people were afraid of technology coming, and sure, they lost jobs, but they just shifted. It just shifted to something else, and they didn't know what those jobs were going to be at the time. Just like we don't know what those jobs will be at the time. Maybe AI's different, and this
Yeah.
robotics, whatever, is different. But yeah, I mean, people will just have
Yeah.
to adapt.
Like the
But
lamp,
like,
like the,
but
right.
like
I was
Sean,
saying,
you were kind of saying like you should be able to see that coming. Like if you're putting on the tires, you can figure out something else is going to be able to put on the tires. So
yeah,
hopefully
like the
there's some
lamplighter
time.
scenario Peter was talking about. It's like, well, now there's a job where you have to replace light bulbs, and now we got to hire an electrician to run all those, like to maintain that infrastructure. So like, just like people are freaking out with the Tesla trucks, like the semi trucks, they won't have drivers. Well, you got to have a guy park it. I mean, like a pilot now, you don't really fly the plane. You take off, and they have to have a pilot to land the dang thing. But in between, you can pretty much runs itself unless you have some catastrophic failure. Same thing with a truck. They'll probably have to have a guy riding in it in case it breaks down or something. Or a guy park it or get it out to back up to the dock and stuff. You know what I mean? So it's not like it's not all for nothing. But yeah, at some point you're gonna have to, change your, like maybe in colleges instead of focusing on like poli sci degrees and stuff. You're gonna be like, oh, I need to be engineering or computers or like AI is coming, but we're gonna need a guy to put the inputs into the AI to get what we want. Before the Terminators all take over.
I was going to say, for AI, we might need people to man the pulse rifles to, blast them when they come for us.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, it's just like the job, like Peter said, the job just, and you said, the job just switches over to something else. Like, okay, now you won't be able to do just like the super simple thing. You're gonna have to actually like do some kind of trade or something. Like what everybody was freaking out because like AI is gonna come. We're getting so off topic. AI is gonna come and take over all the crappy jobs, but the crappy jobs are the only ones that are still here, right? Like they can write movie scripts and they can do blogs and they can make internet websites and they can make my descriptions for my website with AI, all that cool stuff. But like, I haven't seen a robot doing plumbing or electrical or paving my driveway or framing my house. Like those are all, and so now those guys make it, they make really good money. I mean, like a plumber down here, if you're not an apprentice or you're a professional, it's like $30-$40 an hour, $80 an hour sometimes. Like AC guys are $100 an hour.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I can make $200,000 running HVAC because the robot doesn't know how to do HVAC, but he can paint the car. He can. It's just a whole different thing. The jobs will just rotate to something else, and then those guys will make more money because they'll be more competitive. So you want to be more. So as far as anyway, being off track from power racks and laser cutting and welding.
That's all right. It all kind of ties. What about, so you guys, someone mentioned Amazon earlier. I'd be curious to hear, like, what is your guys' take on the Amazon companies that sell gym equipment that all kind of looks the same and they don't really have a brand behind it. It's more like
sucks.
Yeah, I don't really want to guess any names, but like you see who's selling it, and you've never heard of that brand, but they have let's just call it a power rack that has like a functional trainer, and it looks exactly like somebody else's. So I'd be curious to hear about, and there's like attachments and dumbbells and all sorts of things. I'd be curious to hear about like your take on like Amazon gym equipment. And I know, Peter, you sell some equipment on Amazon, but it's clearly like Fringe Sport is the company. So, yeah, but curious to hear about the kind of no-name brand Amazon sellers.
I think they're the people who like just call up and like, hey, make me a power rack. And they're like, give me the cheapest damn thing you can give me. And I'm going to try to sell as many as I can with the lowest margin possible. And then if people leave bad reviews, who gives a crap, because I just want to pump out as many of these damn things. Because you're just like sitting at your house on your computer and you're like, give me a power rack. And then I'm going to have it shipped directly to the Amazon distribution center. And Amazon's going to, I can't use that word, work you over the coals, take a giant percentage, and they're going to package it and ship it and everything. And you're going to make like $10 or $50 a power rack. And you're just going to try to sell as many as you can. And you don't care. And then if you get a crap load of bad reviews, you're like, oh, now I have a new company. Now instead of Crandall Fitness, it's Randall Fitness, and I'm going to change my power racks, and now I'm going to do the exact same thing again. We're just going to keep doing that and never actually care about product quality, or we're just going to mass produce the crap out of crap. And then it gives us a bad name because like, oh, well, that crap on Amazon came from China, and that power rack was $75. I have no idea why it collapsed on me. Like I was talking to a guy the other day about benches. He's like, I got this bench off Amazon. I was like, you should get a new bench, because he has one of our bars in our bumper sets. I go, you should get a new bench because that thing's going to collapse on you because it's crap. And he's like, he's got a pretty big following, like 1 million people on Instagram. And I'm like, just buy the bench from us and you're not going to die. 8 seconds, I shit you not, 8 seconds later, he sends me a video of him filming himself for an Instagram picture, and he's vertical on it doing rows, and it collapses and he falls. Like that with the bar on his face. He's on his face. And he sent me that, and I was like, yeah, I don't, like I just told you, like literally 8 seconds ago, that thing's a piece of shit. So I'm like, it's just what you're going to get what you pay for every time.
Well, to speak to the Amazon bench situation, I swear some of the benches that I've seen on Amazon are rated for 300 pounds. and somebody's like, "Oh, well, that's great. I'm never going to be able to bench 300 pounds." And I'm like, "Bro,
Yeah.
how much do you weigh?" And they're like, "Oh, I weigh 200 pounds." And I'm like, "Well, do you think you'll ever be able to bench 100 pounds? Because then you're going to exceed the capacity of the bench, and that fiberboard backing is, sooner or later it's going to go." But
Well, and they have the little pin,
yeah,
right, that holds it, and then the pin slips out, the whole thing just collapses on somebody.
yeah. Um, So you guys might imagine I have kind of a nuanced view of Amazon. One of the things I always think about, like way back when, because I've been actually in e-commerce since 2001 as an employee for 10 years, and then when I founded Fringe. And I always remember way back when there was this, maybe it's not even a real Jeff Bezos quote, but supposedly a bunch of people talked about it, where he said, "Your margin is my opportunity." And that's really Amazon. Amazon, if you don't do it right, is where margin goes to die, basically. And it's not a bad thing for a company to make money on a product, because we have to make money on a product. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to keep the lights on and bring, awesome stuff to market. But a lot of times what you see in Amazon, and this is what Sean was talking about, is you see this race to the bottom. So there are these brands that aren't fitness brands. They don't know anything about fitness. But let's go back to that bench. They see a bench that someone is selling, and then they say, "You know what? I can get a factory, it's probably in China. I can get a factory to make a bench that looks like that bench that somebody is selling, that maybe is rated to 1,500 pounds or 1,000 pounds or whatever, but it's actually not going to be rated to that weight level." And actually, we're seeing this a lot right now. Jake, you kind of mentioned it almost, in like squat racks. So there are a lot of people that are making, or a lot of companies that are making squat racks that, if you kind of are at a distance and you squint a little bit, like it looks like a great squat rack, but
It's a
then when you
Monet.
actually, there you go. But when you actually get it, it actually doesn't have a lot. So first of all, it doesn't have the safety features and the weight capacity. But second of all that stuff that you think looks really awesome on the squat rack, it's just so horribly designed that you're never going to end up using it. Like, lat pull downs and things like that they just don't work. They don't feel smooth. There are ergonomics issues that interrupt with you using it. And there are all these different problems. And then, like Sean said, you get a bunch of negative reviews on it, and then the company just, comes out with a new, slightly different product, or even just, makes kind of a new name and goes to town as far as that goes. That said, I'm throwing a lot of like FUD, like fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I mean, there's certainly some good stuff on Amazon, but even from me searching for stuff for my house or whatever, it's a game of like whack-a-mole for who do you trust. And,
Who's paying more for the ads to get their product to the top of the first page when I Google whatever the heck, or whatever on Amazon I'm looking for,
yeah. But I mean, I really think that brands are more important than ever. Like every now and then you hear about like the death of a brand. But what a brand is a brand is trust. Hey, I trust Crandall Fitness to deliver, awesome product at a fair price that's going to be like safe, and then they're going to stand behind it. And that's what a brand means, is it's some level of trust. We were talking about Nike earlier, and Sean, you were talking about Nike being woke. And part of the thing about a brand is that you're supposed to like pull in people who are like you or who like what you're doing, and repel people who don't like what you're doing. So I'm not really a culture warrior, but let's say Nike is woke. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to attract quote unquote woke people to their brand, and they're trying to repel people who aren't a good fit for the brand away. And so back to the power of brand, like that's what we should be doing with our brands, is saying, hey guys, if this is what you're looking for, and here's what we provide, then this is the home for you. We're amazing for you. But if you're not looking for this stuff, so I'll just mention one thing that I'm guessing, Sean, is probably a commonality between our two companies. If you're looking for the cheapest possible product, you're just not our customer. Like, I'm cool. Like, I'm happy for you to follow your fitness journey. But if all you care about is the cheapest possible product, we're just not good for you. It's not a good fit. And
And
there's
good
no hard
luck.
feelings
And,
about that.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
good luck.
not dying. Not dying. whenever you get strong enough to break your rack. And then, because you know, I'm sure you've seen it like in our retail store. When we first opened it, we were working there all the dang time, my wife and I. And you get people that come in, it's like, well, I bought this one rack, and I'm going to try to resell it before I come get yours. I'm like, and then you find out whatever brand it is from mom. I'm like, you're not going to resell it. Like, no one's going to buy it unless you sell it for $50.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's not like, I get it. You probably paid $800 for it or something, and you're like, it's not going to get you $800. Like, especially when our, you know, you don't understand what I'm saying. It's just, I mean, and then, like you said, if people want to, like, I came out into that podcast, like, so now, like, law enforcement, like, so we have a big following. And if you're not a big fan of law enforcement, you probably don't like Crandall Fitness because you're like, he's a racist border patrol agent that hates Mexicans, you know, or whatever. You're like, well, you're like, ironically, my wife's Mexican, so I guess I must hate them a bunch, and I hate my children too. They all can die. It's just so dumb, you know what I mean? So it's just, but the other side of that is now there's a whole bunch of more military and law enforcement people, you know, and those kind of people that you can't. Thing is, you can't make everybody happy. It's like when somebody comes in, they're like, I had a guy the other day. He's like, "Can't we get like a 30 or 40% discount?" I'm like, "Well, I could, but then I would lose money on it, and so I'd rather just like not sell it to you at that point. Like, it doesn't even make sense to me. You know what I mean? To give you that much off like a power rack, like." You could, but I'm like, I'm not the bargain guy. I'm not the Ross of you know, the Ross or the whatever of the Walmart of weight equipment. You know what I mean? Like we're here to make like this. Yeah, Ross. Oh, you guys aren't big Ross people? My mom loves Ross, so that's why I know all about Ross. But it's just like you're not that company. Like you're gonna come buy ours, and then it's gonna last forever, and there's no amount of weight you're gonna lift that's ever gonna break this damn thing. Because if I've tried to break it with a forklift, or my truck, or my kids try to run over with our forklift on accident, like the thing's not, you know what I mean? Like you just buy it, and maybe it is 30% more expensive than the Ethos rack from Dick's or whatever, but it's also man-sized, you know. Like I make everything big, right? I'm like 6'5", 250 pounds. Like everything has to be big enough for me, and then it's big enough for everybody, right? It doesn't make sense to me. Like if you make things like for sizes. I guess maybe because we're a small company, so I don't have the ability to make like, you know, training size and then work our way up to commercial. So if you just make everything commercial grade, you never have anybody complain, and you always get good reviews, right? Fringe has shit tons of awesome reviews, right, on Amazon and on their site. We have like all 5-star reviews except for like 2 dudes, and neither one of them bought stuff from us. One guy got lost trying to get into our parking lot, a retail location, and then he came inside and he's like, I think this is a fake place because their equipment's in boxes in the back. We have a showroom in the front. I'm like, he's like, this place isn't real. And he left. And that was the review he left, was that. That's what I said. I was like, yes, it's my fault you missed the driveway into the whatever. So, you know what I mean? But everybody that actually purchased something from was like, this is awesome. Their customer service is awesome. That's the other thing too. Customer service is like a big damn deal to people. Like, people will email me, and because I'm the one who answers it, like last night, a guy emailed me at 10 p.m., and I was awake, and I was like, replied, and he was like, wait, it's 10:15, you replied to my email? I was like, yeah. I go, tomorrow I'll send you the new piece. He's like, oh, okay. You know, they get all mad, like the email's like, I got this piece, and I paid $1,000 for this rack, and the pin the little thing popped out of the pin. I'm like, I'll send you a pin tomorrow. I was like, oh well, okay. That's fine. Then I was like, he's like looking for a fight, you know, like, because before I had this company, I've dealt with Titan, I've dealt with Rogue, and you're like, oh, wait 3 to 5 days for reply, and then you sit in, and then like 3 to 5 days, and like, well, let's look into it and make sure this is all good. And I'll call people. I love calling people because no one expects you to call them on their personal phone. They're like, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm the under Crandall Fest. Like, why you're calling me? I'm like, yeah, what's the problem? Like, oh, well, there's a UPS did this, and there's a scratch on the bench, or there's this pad got torn. I go, okay, I'll send you a new pad tomorrow. Like, oh, okay. I'm like, what do you want to do the old pad? I don't know. Keep it. Use it as like a ab thing. I don't care. Do whatever you want with it. Like, oh, okay. I don't have to send it back. Like, nah, that's fine. I'm not going to use the torn pad. Do whatever you want with it. Like, oh, okay, cool. And then just like that, having that customer service, I'm sure like Peter's the exact same way. It's like people like that really resonates with people because now like people don't get good customer service. Like everybody sucks. And I know like just dealing with other companies, like people just suck at like that USA manufacturer. Like, people just suck at customer service, and people are super turned off. Like when you have one bad experience with you, like one bad review is worse than having like 200 good reviews.
Yeah.
It's just horrible what one person can do to you if they're like, this guy was a jerk to me on the phone, and I went in and he was an ass, and they told me to pound sand over a dumbbell, or a pad that costs $40. Like, you want to ruin like your company over some bull crap, like, some crap like that? It makes no sense to me. I have no idea where we started. I just went on a tangent for no reason
right.
whatsoever.
How are you guys on time? You got time for one more?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
I got all day, baby.
Okay, I got to hop off at 2:15, but yeah, we can go. A couple more, even or one or two.
Oh, it's only 12 here, so we're fine.
Cool. All right. Let's see. What should we go with next? How about most exciting fitness trend currently?
Go, Peter.
I'll pop in. Yeah. So I am super, super excited about the like small maker community in our space. And, from like a macro or like a larger fitness trend, garage gyms. I'm all about garage gyms. I love that stuff. But you've got so much innovation coming from these smaller companies that in many cases are just some dude in his garage. We've been working with Kyle from Kaizen DIY, and dude's just a freaking mad scientist, just coming up with all sorts of crazy things to do. And then, working with different companies to come out with these like new and innovative little things. I talked earlier in this call about being in the golden age of barbells. Like, we're just in a golden age of home gym stuff. I mean, Jake, I can see in your background, obviously, you've got a rack back there with a ton of stuff hanging off of it. Like, innovation is just off the charts right now. And I'm super excited about that. And that's what I think the most exciting fitness trend or home gym trend or whatever is, just innovating on all these different products. And that just jazzes me up, gets me super excited.
Yeah, and also that's awesome. What he's saying is because they like even the little things, like the gym pin thing, the magnetic thing, like you're gonna be like, sorry, I'm gonna ruin your whole monetization of this.
Oh, I don't mind.
Of this thing. Okay, like
I don't mind. Yeah.
He has like a magnetic pin that's badass, right? I'm gonna copy it. But he has a magnetic pin that's awesome, and you have like our lat pull down, our functional trainer, they have magnetic pins. And for whatever reason, I've seen it 1,000 times. I've never I should make a magnetic pin for my rack. And then this dude comes out, I was like, God dang it, that was a really good idea. But it's like, because you don't have to have the stupid pin on the other side, right? Which everybody loses, or they're stupid, or they lose, like I just told you, like a little ball that pops out of the end. It's like an awesome ass idea, and it's not like he's not reinventing the wheel. He's just like making something that like everyone's been using since Rogue came out with whatever, or whoever's been using pins for decades since I was the YMCA, you know what I mean? And like, now it's magnetic and it's badass. And like you know what I mean? Like, do little things like that. Doesn't have to be like this whole giant new attachment that goes on your rack like a whoever, crap that's coming out. Just like something really simple like that like makes a big difference. Like, not toot my own horn, but like the free motion swing arms, right? Like you got Rogue and then Rep, and everybody's doing the same, like up and down, up and down. Well, I don't do CrossFit, and I didn't care about bumper plates before I got into the space because I'm like, who the fuck needs bumper plates? Like nobody uses bumper plates. They just use iron and bars, and we do bodybuilding stuff. So I'm like, how can I get bodybuilding in my house? I'm like, I'll make an arm that I can do like anything hammer strength can do, because everything needs to be converging so I can flex everything. So I'm like, how do I make everything converging? I need converging on this damn place because pushing it straight is stupid, and I need more muscle activation. So like based on bodybuilding. And like, obviously, Peter's been in the space, so he's like doing the same thing. So you see some of these companies, I'm going to rant on this. Some of these companies like come out with crap, and you're like, one, it doesn't help. And two, like, who the hell is coming up with this shit? He obviously doesn't work out because it's not like you're not fulfilling a need. But these small guys that have been lifting in their gym, they're like, looking at their lat pull down, like, or their cable machine, they're like, how can I turn that into a lat pull down? Like, oh, let me tweak this and I'll do this and blah, blah. You know what I mean? And like, now I can do this, especially if you have, everybody thinks that people have these giant garages, you know what I mean? Like 2-car, 3-car garages. Like, I delivered to a dude's house, and I'm pretty sure his 1-car garage couldn't fit a car. You know what I mean? It's like, once you put a rack in there, that's it. Like that's game over. Like there's a rack in there and a bench and maybe a dumbbell set. So like these guys are like making these attachments that you can put on and put off, right? Is much better than I think like those maybe all-in-one things that remind me of a Swiss Army knife, where it's like it's okay at a whole bunch of crap and not great at anything. These guys are making stuff where you can put it on and put off, and now it's really good at all the things. And maybe it's not all built onto the same machine, like this big clusterfuck where you can't have two people working out at the same time. You know what I mean? But you can still do all the stuff you need, and then you can take things off, and then you can use a space without having to go through this whole process of unbolting and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So just like the newest trend would be like just having a home gym, right? That's like COVID brought out oh shit, we can have a home gym. Like people like forever were like, oh, I saw Mark Wahlberg's home gym and it must cost $30,000. There's no way I can have a home gym.
Joe Rogan's home gym. We got that a lot because Stornex outfit Joe Rogan with a really badass gym, and I'm guessing Joe Rogan probably uses it because he's Joe Rogan. Yeah. But that's what we used to get, is like Joe Rogan or maybe The Rock, you know, things like that.
Yeah. And they see that and they're like, well, you don't have 30 guys tearing The Rock's gym down and moving it every time he goes to a new movie set because it gets moved every time. Like I had a home gym in '98 in my parents' basement made out of like a lap pull down and a bench that inclined with the bar, like you'd see the commercial gym, and I'm like, this is a home gym. But like people for a long time just associated home gyms with celebrity status or money. And now we're making it like, the thing about me and Peter, and maybe, I'm not sure about Bells of Steel, I don't know the owner of the Bells of Steel, but like you're making a product where you can go in and spend $2,000 or $2,500 and you're going to get a rack, a bench, a bar, a weight set, possibly dumbbells, and you're going to start off with like a really good home gym where you can do a lot of crap for a beginner. And then as you're like, oh, maybe I want to do bodybuilding or maybe I'm going to do powerlifting, then you start adding to that, and you can customize your house to what you need without spending a shit ton of money. Because you're like, when you die, the power rack and the bench and the bar and the weights are still going to be there. Like you buy them when you're 20, you're going to be 80 using the same bar. Like it's good forever. How many people go out and spend $1,000 a month eating out, or $5 a day drinking coffee, or $9 a day smoking cigarettes? Like you can spend like just a month's pack of cigarettes is enough to buy a bench, right? And then you take out soda for a month and you're like, oh, now I have a bar. And I take out this. Like, it's just so simple to me that the newest craze would be like just the realizing that you can get fit at home and not have to go to a commercial gym. Because, like people with kids, I mean, my kids work out with me, like, you can have kids in the gym. You can go in there, like you just walk around your boxer shorts, like I'm gonna go do bench press, like I mean, you get your friends. You guys probably don't do this, but I'm a little rednecky. You get your friends together and you're all drinking, like let's go do a bench press competition, which probably isn't the smartest idea, but you're like, we have a gym, let's go so you can squat the most, like whatever. But then you have all these people you hang out with, and you create this whole environment where you're not just going to a commercial gym of people that want to be in gyms. Now your kids grow up and they're like, I saw my dad working out from the time I was 5 and I can remember, and this is normal. People normally work out at their house, and this is normal. So then they have their friends and their friends, you know what I mean? The people you hang out with, and like you build this whole community and generation of kids who think working out is normal. My dad, I grew up on a small farm in Missouri. Their idea of working out was like having us move cattle and moving hay bales, right? Like lifting weights wasn't even in the conversation. Like now I'm trying to, my dad's 72. Get him to pick up a barbell, I might as well just go run my head through a wall. Like, it's not happening. But, like, my kids are like, oh, like, hey, Dad, I want to go work out. We just go in there and work out. Like, it's just completely normal. So just getting that whole thing where it's just, there's just so many unhealthy people. Like, you see kids and adults now and stuff, you know what I mean? You just, like, we can help you. Like, me and Peter help you. Like, it's not hard. Like, 30 minutes, an hour a day, 4 or 5 days a week, like, you're going to live longer. You're going to have less medications you have to be on. Like, it's just so much better for everyone. Just across the board. Sorry, I'm just going tangents.
No, that's a really good point. And yeah.
And you don't have to break the bank. You know what I mean? Like,
it's awesome.
It just blows my mind.
And I do want to say, like, Peter mentioned Kyle, who has all these great ideas. And like, Kyle comes over all the time and works out here, and I go over there. And you're right. He's like a mad scientist, and there's like but Kyle's not alone. There's like hundreds now who are like tinkering with their home gyms to try and like make this like all-in-one home gym where you can do everything with just like small little changes here and there. And then they also post it online. You post it online, and then you get other ideas because this person did this and this person did this. Oh, I think I can do it like this. And then now you have like a lot of companies like Peter's working with Kyle. They understand the benefits and are willing to work with people like that. And it just seems like the home gym innovation with these people who are actually working out in these small spaces, living the home gym life, spreading the word and passing it along. I think, yeah, we're just going to
make it
keep
sound like
seeing.
a cult.
Well, I mean, it does take like a certain type of person too, like to be into that stuff. But yeah, I think that's a cool trend that like we've seen like the past year or so, and it'll be cool to see how that looks in like 5 to 10 years, if it's still a thing or not.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's just getting people away from the stigma of like meatheadism, right? I'm just gonna make that like being a meathead. Like, oh, you have to be a Mr. Olympia if you're gonna be working out at home. Like, no, you're just like being healthy and doing something very simple. You're cutting like all the drive time to a commercial gym out. You know, like I said, and you have your kids and like get your neighbors involved, and you just like build this whole community of like just healthy people. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean?
So I want to pile on that just really quickly, and this is one of the things that I talk about a lot with people. It's simple to add a little more strength into your life. Now, I didn't say it's easy, but it's simple to do. And unlike almost everything else, like a lot of people want to lose weight, right? Losing weight is freaking hard as hell because you got to watch what you eat basically all the time. Like you can have some cheat meals here or there, but essentially it's what you put in your mouth, which is really hard to modify that behavior. And like every incentive in the modern world is going against you, modifying the behavior of what you put in your mouth. But if you want to get stronger, all you have to do is have a little strength routine that you add in. Now, I work out a lot, but you don't have to work out anywhere near as much as I do. I mean, like 3 days a week for 20 minutes a day of just an extremely basic routine will do almost anybody really well and put them way ahead of where they were. And what Sean was mentioning, people who live longer lives. There's tons of studies around this. You will live longer if you have even a very basic strength routine. Happier. People who lift, like you get all of those happy chemicals popping in your brain. If I have a shit day, sometimes my wife will be like, get your ass out of this house, into the garage, and go do some squats. And don't talk to me until you do. Because I go and I do some squats, and then boom, I get some little dopamine bombs in the brain, and then all of a sudden, I'm not as pissed off anymore. Maybe I'm even happy. So you're going to live longer. Tons of studies behind that. You're going to be happier without medication. You don't need medication. You're going to be, farming your own dopamine, that sort of thing. And then, Sean, you'd even mentioned kind of this like meathead thing. Are there meatheads? Are there dumb people? Are there assholes in the gym? Yeah, but they're dumb people and they're assholes everywhere. There is a correlation between intelligence and strength. It's just not the popular like perception. Like, for example, I mean, this is just cherry picking, but, look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. Maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago, somebody was like, oh, he's just a dumb Austrian or something like that. Hell no, he is whip smart. To call out another, action star from my youth is Sylvester Stallone. Some people are like, oh, Sylvester Stallone's stupid. No, he freaking wrote Rocky. He writes, he directs, he does all this stuff. He may not look smart, but he's highly intelligent and highly successful. The Rock, also highly intelligent, highly successful. There's just, if there's a correlation between strength and intelligence, it is a positive correlation. And back to what I was mentioning is you're going to live longer if you lift weights. You're going to be happier if you lift weights, and you might even be smarter. And so there's really there's almost no reason to not lift weights.
And as you get older, like you literally, when you're 70, you still need to be able to bend over and pick up stuff. Deadlift. Only to squat down to grab something off the bottom shelf or change a tire or whatever. Like squats. Like, oh, I need to pick something up like the grocery bags. You're like shoulders. Like all these super practical things you need to do every day in your life until you die, unless you want to be in a nursing home or something or have somebody take care of you, revolves around strength training. Like if you just went out and squatted your body weight all the time or just the bar or whatever, did body squats, push-ups, like even a very basic thing with minimal stuff, your life, your quality of life, not even the longevity as Peter mentioned, but your quality of life is going to go through the roof because you're going to be able to function as an older, like as a grandparent that can, I don't know if you guys saw that commercial where the old man like for a year was like working on the kettlebell, right? And then he picked his grandson or granddaughter up to do the Christmas tree thing. Like that stuff, if I could just implant that in my dad's head, it's like just to be able to function, you know what I mean? Like, God dang it, just like, so you can do the things you did 20 years ago and not be like, oh God, I've been over to tie my shoe. Like, oh God, like just live a quality life. And that's all me and Peter are trying to do is like, yeah, there's the extreme people that want to be in shape like us or whatever, but like just get the damn gym or something at your house and just do fitness so that you can like function your whole life. Like just be happy. It's going to be better for you. Walking with your grandkids, playing with your grandkids, walk on the beach with your wife, you know what I mean? Still be able to go on trips when you're older. You're not like, oh, I can't walk down the aisle on a plane, or I don't want to go to Rome because I'm going to have to walk around all the things, you know what I mean? Just like, it just makes everyone's life better that's training. Just in general, just make the whole world train would be great. Everybody be happy.
Make the whole world train.
Yeah, and you would be less, and then you'd be less angry because, like Peter said, you go out there, maybe you get dopamine, but also when you get down doing a bunch of squats, you're tired as fuck, and so you're not mad anymore because you're like, I'm too tired to be mad. It's like worth. I know what the hell I was mad about. So we have to do round 2.
Cool. I was gonna say we have a.
We only did like half the things we talked about. We're gonna have to. We have to do a round 2.
We have a handful of lists of questions that we'll have to come back to. This was really good. I liked it. It was fun. I'll end it. But is there anything else you guys want to say before we close it?
Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah. If you've watched this long and you love what I'm doing, check us out at www.fringesport.com. And also, you can always make me happy by lifting something heavy today.
Yeah, same with us. Go to crandallfizz.com or just go to our Instagram. We like to do a lot of videos. Like Fringe does, we do like a lot of videos where we try to break stuff. So you can see that both of our companies have quality stuff and you're not going to be getting shit. So like they say, buy once, cry once, except with us. Usually they say it with Rogue or Sorenex. You don't have to cry so much. You can just kind of weep a little bit. And you'll be good to go. Yeah.
I love it.
So
that's good.
Awesome. Yeah, great. I'm gled you guys.
Cool.
Thanks for inviting us on.
You got it. I'll plug both those links at the top of each of these descriptions for anyone still listening. Appreciate anyone still listening.
I'm sure they are because we're entertaining, damn it.
You guys were awesome. All right. That's going to do it.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Peace.